Record is happening now. It's a thing. It's a thing. It's a show. We are here.
I can see it. I can
Okay.
see.
Oh, it says recording on the side. Oh, look at that.
Yes, it does.
I'm watching you. Okay. It sounds like so weird. Kind of sound like stalkerish, slightly pervish because, okay, you know what? Never mind. So, okay, so May, first I want you to start by telling us about your YouTube channel.
Okay. Well, the name of my YouTube channel is Jermaine All Natural. I called it that because for the past 2 to 3 years, I've been making a shift from using kind of over-the-counter regular products into using more natural products. So it started with using natural deodorants, was like the first thing I did. And from there, I'm like, you know what, I need to just start moving away from things that have a lot of chemicals and start using more products that are, you know, if not all natural, at least they're mostly natural, predominantly natural ingredients in them. So because of the deodorant challenges and how I was testing out the deodorants, I naturally just moved on over to expanding into other things. And then I started growing my hair out and I was like, ooh, I need to do some natural stuff for my hair. So it's kind of evolved into a whole channel of just natural products, mostly natural products, and just overall general self-care, maintenance, just everything for the body being predominantly, if not entirely, natural.
So it's crazy because I was supposed to text you. So I ordered this stuff. I think it's called the Ordinary or something like that, or the original. Have you ever heard of it? It's a Canadian line. A lot of people are like literally raving about it. I got a screenshot of it. Like I should have just had it right here so I can show you it to see if you ever used it. Now I don't know if it's like natural, but like they have a limited amount of things that they actually use inside of their products. So it's like the products are specifically what they are. Like the toners are specifically like natural stuff that tones your skin. They have this one thing, like I have this peel that they have. It's a AH, I don't even know half this stuff, so I'm not even gonna say, but it's like natural stuff. And it's like super cheap. It's you can't see it because of the thing. So a lot of people don't know you because, well, you know, they should know you because we did a video where we were dancing together.
Yes,
at work. So they actually do know who you are. And you usually go to Starbucks. So I guess my first question to you would be with the whole Black Lives Matter thing, and they were like telling, I guess, an employee that they couldn't wear a Black Lives Matter. I don't know if it was like a mask or a T-shirt. And a lot of people were like, we're boycotting Starbucks. We're not going there. Like, how do you feel about that?
I think that I believe it was either a pin or a T-shirt, one of the two, and so they sent the memo out right to the staff,
right,
and how I interpreted their initial the part of the memo is that because in the memo it said, we see you, we hear you. We understand that you all have been asking. So in that just that one little part that I'm talking about right now, it seems like it wasn't just this one person. It seems like it was maybe multiple people, and I don't know if maybe different locations, which would make sense,
right?
Because Starbucks hires pretty much anybody. But it seemed like maybe multiple people were asking if this was the thing. So in that initial response, when they were saying like, hey, we see you, we hear you, let us come up with something to see what we can do to make this work. But with how they did it, I agree with a lot of people, the initial part. So they said that no, they started off with what their dress policy was, which was, I think, the wrong way to address it.
Right.
Because, they talked about, well, this is against the dress policy and blah, blah, blah. And they mentioned like, unless it's something that Starbucks gives to you, it has to be something that is approved for you to wear. And then it says something about it lists something with, it can't be something political, something else, or personal issues. I can't remember what the third thing was. And I'm like, that's not going to translate to people clearly. And then the following paragraph after that was then when it was like, hey, we see you, we hear you. We're working on something right now to see if we can make it work. In the meantime, we have these filler shirts that are geared toward supporting our Black employees and stuff like that, that you can wear in the meantime.
Mm-hmm.
And when everyone was like, oh, well, they just said they can't wear it. They just said they can't wear it. And I'm like, well, did no one read the entire memo?
Nobody ever reads the entire memo, Janae.
It's the emails. Like, no one ever reads it. No one ever reads no one reads the emails, but the words in there mean things. So you can't just take, to me, it felt like everything else that people do. You saw a headline and you ran with it and you didn't even read the full story. And like 2 days later, they were like, okay, great, we came up with something. This is what we think this is what we're going to put out there. And it had everything on it that everyone was protesting. I'm like, okay, see, if you would have read the whole memo, you would have saw that they were, number one, working on it, because it said, give us some time. We're trying to figure it out. We see you, we hear you. No one mentioned that at all. Everyone's just like, oh no, they said that we can't wear it. In that memo, it says Starbucks issued things. So I have an employee saying that they give us the pride things, which goes in line with what the memo said, which it has to be a Starbucks issued thing. So I'm like, okay, so this is making sense that they have a dress policy and they want you to wear what they are making for whatever specific thing that they want to celebrate or highlight. Then why would Black Lives Matter be any different? Because everyone's extra sensitive, then they should just do it? That's not how companies work. That's just not how companies work. But if they're telling you, okay, we're gonna work on it to make it work for you, and we're gonna come up with our own thing that supports what you want us to support, then give us the time to do it. I just believe in being fair. I don't do the cancel thing. I don't do bandwagons. I don't read the headlines and just run with it. Like I've worked in corporate for a long time, and I know that I know that a lot of things don't happen overnight in corporate, and they're not gonna happen just because you want them to.
Right.
But if the company is saying, okay, we're going to make it work for you, then just give them some time. It was like 2 days.
It's definitely a thing. No, I was like, when I first seen it pop up, I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to ask Jermaine about this. I want to know what he thinks about this. I was moving my shoulder and everything. Like, I want to know what he thinks about this.
Had you contacted me that very day, I would have, my response would have been, I'm going to wait and see what they do. That would have been my response.
Well, with this month, I think it's, is it still, June is Pride Month, the entire month, right? Okay, cool. So I have about 5 things that I wanted to discuss. Well, it's kind of like 5 things that I want you to tell me about. My way of getting to know like different people and getting people or helping other people to understand is to know the do's and don'ts, right?
Okay.
So a lot of people ask what you would think to be stupid questions about the LGBTQ community, and it's because like most of us are ignorant to certain things. So I thought it would be great, and I want to call this segment "Stir the Pot." So I feel like
this sounds messy.
Stir the pot.
It sounds messy.
Don't it sound messy? So I just want to know the do's and don'ts. Like, what is it that you don't like people asking you? And then, like, what is it that is acceptable, that is okay? I want to know a few of those things because, like, I know sometimes, like, I have questions and I'd be like, no, I'm not going to ask that question because it could sound offensive. But I know that I'm not an offensive person, but I wonder.
Typically, if people have questions, like they just want to know things, I don't have an issue with asking. I can't really think of anything that's, some things that are offensive. I will say this, and I don't think that I've really heard this in a very long time. But when it's kind of an old thing of people saying, well, who's the boy and who's the girl, and it's like that's okay. That's a little stupid because if you're looking at 2 men or if you're looking at 2 women, then both are boys or both are girls. So maybe what you're trying to ask is who's more dominant, because that happens in relationships, period. I've seen several relationships where, yeah, it may be a man and a woman, but the woman is what's running everything. So you can't look at a lesbian couple or a gay couple and say who's the boy or who's the girl, because what does that mean exactly?
Right. Right. I guess
What
it's
do you, what do you,
like a way of wording it, like who's the feminine one, who's the masculine one, but like they word
and
it.
see that question will kind of always, that question can sometimes bring you to a dead end, because you have some couples that are equal.
Right.
One, they kind of fluctuate right in the middle, where they both have a masculine and a feminine side. You might have two masculine people. You might have two feminine people. You know, I've seen, you know, there's a reason why the term a tomboy is a word for women, because of their mannerism and how they act. They have a little bit more masculine energy. So you can't, it would be hard to say that to a woman if she's like, well, I'm not feminine at all. Like, and I know women that are like that. Like, they're not prissy, they don't like nails. And I mean, these are women that have always been with men. You know, they're not the dainty little women. They're not getting their hair done every 2 weeks or getting their nails. Like, that's just not who they are.
Right.
So you have to, for me, you have to step back in a lot of instances and think, could someone ask me the same thing, and how would I answer it? You know, because I can't just assume that you're a guy, that you're just this alpha male. Not every guy is built like that. I've seen some soft guys that were straight, soft,
Yeah.
questionably soft.
Yeah.
And they like, nah, I got a girl. And I'm like, okay, well, hey, who knew? I never would have guessed. So I'm not like a lot of people. And my train of thought sometimes is very different, because it's a lot easier for me to automatically, not necessarily play the devil's advocate, but in any instance of one approach, for my brain to automatically look at the complete opposite at the same time. So I don't know if I'm a good source for some questions, because I'm just highly logical.
I'm here for it. Say it.
Yeah. So I haven't heard someone say, well, who's the boy and who's the girl in a very long time. Not even in like a movie or anything, but that question isn't. It doesn't make sense if you're talking to two men or two women. Now, if you want to know who's doing who, then we're getting a little bit personal, and that can be disrespectful. That's also none of your business.
Yeah.
If your question is, well, who's more dominant and who's more feminine, why do you care?
Right. Well, I mean, some people care because they maybe want to dibble and dabble. I don't know. None of my business. You know what?
So then at that point, if you're trying to dibble and dabble, then you should be like, who's the top and who's the bottom? So you can know where you fall if you're trying to dibble and dabble.
Listen, it took me so long to figure out. I used to ask people, what does that mean? And then somebody had to explain it to me. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it. I really get it.
There's definite lingo.
I got a question. And this is because it confuses me. And I want to know if it confused you. Because I was talking to someone, and he was saying that it confuses him, right? When it comes to a man turning into a woman and a woman turning into a man and them getting together, how do you?
Does it make you gay or lesbian? So if you're a man and you are transitioning into a woman, but you still like women, is what you're asking? Does that make you gay, or are you still straight?
I've seen a couple. The man used to be a woman and the woman used to be a man, but they were a couple. They were together. And I'm like, but doesn't that make that a heterosexual relationship, or does it make it a trans heterosexual relationship? Like, does stuff like that confuse you, or does it make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I've never heard the term trans hetero, but it makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. I was thinking about it for like 20 minutes and my head started hurting, because I was like, well, wouldn't that defeat the purpose of doing the surgery if you were going to still date someone? Or
nope.
It doesn't?
Nope. No, because when people are transgender, that has nothing to do with any outside person. That is a complete individual feeling that they feel for themselves on the inside. So if you are born a boy, but in your whole life and your whole being, it does not feel right to you, and you're like, this doesn't, I don't identify with being a male, like none of this feels right to
Mhm.
me. The body parts, none of it works for me. It just doesn't feel right. That's not how I identify. Then in your own mind, this is your own individual thing that you're transitioning with. Now that doesn't have anything to do with your attraction, because you could still be born a boy or male and then transition to female. But even in that time between, because most people don't transition until they're old enough to do so, or they
Right.
can't until they're old enough to do so. If in that whole time you still like women, but on your inner, for yourself, you don't identify, you don't connect with the male parts of yourself, your attraction isn't going to change. Your attraction is not going to change. It's no different than it kind of falls into the whole controversy of, are people born gay or not. It falls into that.
Yeah,
It falls into that. If you've always liked males and you're a boy, regardless of how you feel on the inside, if you transition or not, you're always going to like males. If you're a woman and you've always liked men, you're always going to like men. If you don't transition, if you're a hetero woman and you always like men, then you're going to always like men. No one teaches you to like men. You just do. That's just how you feel on the inside. That's what you're attracted to. So it's no different with people that are transgender.
Well, now that we're on this topic, then I studied something and it said that most people choose their sexual preference based off of experiences and based off of how they were raised, versus I've also heard that people are born that way.
So did the article go on to say how that works?
No, no, it didn't. I was sitting there, I was like, I'm kind of confused of, like, if a person is born that way, then does that mean that there's some type of blood difference, or does that mean it's some type of chromosome difference? Or like, I'm trying to understand and gather in my head how that's possible.
I've seen studies when they were saying basically like it's a chromosome thing. I don't think being raised has anything to do with it. I mean, there are plenty of guys that were raised by a single mom that aren't gay, but that's, stereotypical, kind of puts you in that gay box. Oh, you were raised by your mom. If your mom's not gay, then how are you learning to be gay? Like that doesn't make that doesn't make sense. Your mom isn't saying, girl, she's not treating you like a little girl.
But
She's,
they think that
not
you're
telling
born
you
to
to,
be female.
yeah, it's that's something. If people really think about it, to an extent, you're not taught, what to like. Now you may have older brothers and sisters that when you become a certain age may try to push you in that way, how they may be like, oh, look at her and blah blah blah. But before that point, no one teaches you, hey, you should like little boys. Hey, you should like little girls. I mean, I'm sure people have seen like the little videos with little kids, and they have like it's a little boy and a little girl, and they have like a little best friend, and I'm gonna marry her. 3, 4, 5 years old. No one teaches kids these things. No one says, hey, 5-year-old, you're gonna marry a girl one day. As humans, we are naturally curious. We're going to naturally have things that we like and dislike. People are definitely born gay because like I said, there are certain experiences, there are just certain feelings that little kids just have as little kids,
Mhm.
and you can't say that, oh, well, you were raised that way. Well, if your parents aren't gay, then how can you say that? There are tons of people that have parents that have been together. I have several really good friends. Parents been together 30, 40, 50 years. Who taught him to be gay? His example is a mother and father in the house. And the folks that I know, we're talking about solid households. There was no form of abuse because people will say, well, then they must have been abused. No, no,
I was about to
that's
say, 'cause
not it.
I've heard a lot that most people that turn to, like, want to be gay or not, like the same sex, is because of rape or molestation or rejection from a gender, and they're like, forget this. Like, I've heard that a lot, being like,
That is sometimes the case. That is sometimes the case. It's the world. everything is possible. You know, there's no one way for anything. So there are a lot of stories where that was, you know, some folks' first experience of them being raped and abused by, a lot of times it's a family member or, you know, a trusted somebody. And that's their first sexual experience. So that's what they know. And that puts them in that direction. There is at the same time a good, healthy amount of people equally that can't share those experiences, that are like, I've always been this way.
How can we move forward and bring the LGBT community in so that we can kind of, you know, expand that bubble? And Bill Porter, he did a video. I watched about 20 seconds and then like my page reloaded and it just disappeared. But he talked about how like Black lives don't matter because the LGBT community, their lives don't matter.
I watched most of that, of his opinion on that, and I think that a part of the issue is the conditioning that we have, and a lot of times a part of it comes from the church.
Okay.
And, you know, being gay is a sin and you're going to go to hell. Like, that's just an automatic thing. And I think that is a part of it. I think that is, it's not as heavy as it used to be, just with, you know, some of the, you know, it's an old thing. It's an old thing.
Right.
With, you know, you're gay, you're going to go to hell. And it's a sin. So I think some of that is I think a lot of that is, you know, the current generations and the ones that are coming up is a reconditioning of just being respectful of people. And if it doesn't affect you, then you really should care.
Right.
For particularly the Black community, I can't say that he was wrong, you know, and he compared it to the white supremacy. And from there, I heard a little clip of the Breakfast Club, and I think why have I forgotten her name?
What's her name? Angela Yee.
Angela Yee.
Yes.
I wanted to say Hazel E, and I'm like, that's not right. So Angela Yee was apparently just going down through just hot topics and things like that, and she was talking about that. And you know, Charlamagne was like, well, you would compare us to white supremacists and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, it's not the same thing. And, you know, the white supremacy is more so y'all, you know, fighting laws and being in court and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, you missed the premise of what he was saying. It's white supremacy. Yeah, that is laws, but a part of the white supremacy is the fact that they feel free to do anything to Black people, wherever, on the streets, anywhere. And a lot of folks in LGBTQ have suffered the same thing at the hands of folks in the Black community. There's so many stories of trans women, of gay men literally being jumped on the streets, like so many stories of it.
Beat up downtown.
At Pride a few years ago. Yes. Like, it's Pride. Like, he's in the prime location where he should absolutely feel the safest, and even still a group of guys, Black guys, you know, they were all young, but around the same age, jumped him. So to Billy Porter's point, there's a lot of it's parallel, the treatment of white supremacy and Black people and black hetero men and gay people or trans people. It's the same thing, the treatment of it, and just the audacity to be able to just outright do stuff on the street and not even care.
Right. I guess I just don't, and this is most people that's probably gonna watch this and stuff, and they can be like, no, that don't happen, because I think it's our perspective. Like, we don't look for those things, so we don't know that it's constantly happening. We might see it once, you know, once a few years, but you don't see it commonly. And I actually have in my family like a few people that's in the LGBTQ community, and I never really hear stories, so I never really grasp the feeling of it being like white supremacy to Black and straight Black men to the LGBT community. I never seen that. I never could compare like that because I never seen like the really bad treatment. I've always been around and seen the love, like especially in
Yeah.
the family. Like we treat everybody the same. Like if we love you,
Yeah.
we love you. You know, however you
Mhm.
move, whatever name you want to be called is what we gonna call you.
Mhm.
But I guess hearing your perspective from it, like you would see it more because you're a part of that community. And I think that's like basically the big gap. That's the same thing between whites and blacks. Like we see stuff because it's our perspective. We're living this life, you know, and they don't live this life, so they don't see it. They could just be like, well, I don't see it never happening. So it's not a thing.
And we will fight tooth and nail and have all the stories and have all the instances, and it's the exact same thing with the LGBTQ community. So there was a story more recently than Christian, because that was a few years ago, but
Mm.
it was another Pride event a year ago, 2 years ago, and this guy, like, he killed a trans girl and 2K guys,
Wow.
you know, right in the city, right off of, was it State Fair, you
Mm.
know, just like, it was just last year. It was just last year. So, you know, we can't, like you said, it's the whole perspective of you're not seeing it because it's not your community.
Right.
But those that are in that community are like, I can name several dozens of people, you know, that are either gay or, you know, very, very particularly trans women that are literally targeted. Like, you know how there are dating apps, and there are several gay dating apps, and goodness, the stories of people being set up, and like, and you know, these are stories that have been reported, and it's not as many reported as there are actually cases that have been where people are going on these dates, they're thinking that they're, you know, about to hook up with somebody, and they go to a location and they end up getting shot and killed and robbed.
That's
You know, so we hear about it because it's something that we have to be concerned about, you know. And you know, I'm not out there like that. I'm married.
right.
But I have a ton of single friends, and they're on these apps, and I'm just like, you know, you have to be so careful with that. You know, text somebody where you're going, text somebody, like, you, if this is what you're going to do, you need to let at least 4 to 5 people know who the person is, share the information with them, where you're going, share your location with somebody, because it's a thing where people are literally being targeted just for being gay. It's once again, it's like you said, it's perspective. So you can't, if you don't want a white person to take away your black experience, and you as a black person shouldn't take away a person of the LGBTQ's experience.
Right. How do you feel about this? Have you ever had one of those encounters with the Jehovah Witness and telling you that you need to give your life over? And you ever had one
I
of those
was I
experiences?
was raised Jehovah's Witness.
Oh, how was that?
Oh, yeah, I was raised 18 years of my life. My mom still is a Jehovah's Witness. But yeah, 18 years. Ooh wee, ooh wee, ooh wee.
I said, "Ooh, I know you got some stories in there."
Ooh,
Ah,
it's, you know what? It's it's a cult. It's a cult. Um, Jehovah's Witnesses are a Christian-based. I often have to explain Jehovah's Witnesses to people because I'm like, I know it.
right.
It is a Christian-based religion. They believe in God. They believe in Jesus Christ. Like, they believe all of those things. They read the Bible regularly. But this is Jehovah's Witnesses, and everybody else is out here. You know, so if you're not one of them, then you're worldly, and you're basically going to die.
Here's a question: since you have a Christian background, how was it when you came out to your mom?
It's the old saying, moms always know. I had a girlfriend. When I was going to the hall, and I remember my mom telling me once, she was like, "You don't really like her like that. That's just your friend." And I was like, "Nah, what are you talking about? I love her."
I love that voice.
I love her. I'm gonna marry her one day. But you know, moms do always know. They always know. So I told her, but she had a suspicion. At that time, I was like 18, and at that point, I was like, you know what? I was grown, and I was hanging out, and my mom was like, and she knew some of the people that I was hanging out with, or at least seen them before, and she was like,
Mm,
mm,
hmm.
mm.
Mm, one of those.
So
I
for
know.
for for her, it was more of a confirmation. But she still cried. She cried,
She
and I
cried.
was like, and I was like, "What you crying for?" Literally, I was like, "Why are you crying?" I was like, "You actually told me this several years ago. So why the emotion is for what?" And I think that a lot of it was the fact that it's the whole Jehovah's Witness thing, and when you do something that you're not supposed to do, they have this thing called being disfellowshipped. So basically, you're kicked out, and you're supposed to repent from whatever it is, and you would still go to the meetings and stuff like that, but no one can speak to you. So you have to go. Yeah, no, they can't
See?
speak to you. Nobody. And it's even hinted that your family really shouldn't, but that's more of a personal thing. But like you go, you sit in the back, you attend the meetings, and you leave. And you keep doing this, and like you meet with the elders of the congregation, and like after so long, you meet with them, and they're like, have you repented from your sin, blah blah blah. And then when you've shown that you're no longer doing whatever the thing was, then you are reinstated. But it's in phases.
Wait
It's
a
in
minute.
phases. It's in phases.
Hold on. So when they say turn to your neighbor and shake your neighbor hand, you can't get a handshake?
Jehovah's Witnesses don't do that.
Oh, no, okay, Pentecostal. I'm sorry. Wrong church. I never been to
Yeah, they don't do that.
Okay.
You go, they read, you listen, and then you go door to door.
Wow.
There's some songs in there too.
Is it more like
Oh
some,
gosh, no.
no?
Gosh, no.
Oh,
No. Saltine cracker type songs. It
oh,
is dry.
it sounds
It is
unseasoned.
dry. There is no feeling. Oh my gosh, and funerals are the worst. Funerals are they're almost deprived of emotion.
Mm.
They are deprived of emotion, and that's it's just their thing, because they believe that when you die, they believe that when you die, you go back to dust. Like you don't go to heaven, you go to dust. And
Mm.
then when the end of days come and Jesus comes again, then everyone that has died has been resurrected. So that's what they believe. But and a part of that belief is that they believe that the earth is going to go back to the original state that it was in, which Adam and Eve. So it's going to be a paradise, and everyone that died that's going to be resurrected. They're going to be resurrected on earth, not in heaven. It's only 144,000 that are supposed to be going to heaven.
But it's crazy how like we have all these religions, like it's a lot of them. We even have the Satan worshipers and stuff like that. And I feel like every new religion that's coming up is based off of someone that's like, yeah, I don't like all those rules, but I'll take like 3 of those and now make my own, and we'll call it something else,
Yeah.
But it's getting
And that's as I got to be older, and like I started, because being a Jehovah's Witness was my whole world. Like once I got old enough, and like I started, trying to make myself be serious about the religion, and like trying to move up in the ranks of the religion. There was a part in there that talked about living a double life, and I got to an age where I was living a hard double life. When I tell you, like I would be up 5 o'clock in the morning doing I was in school, 5 o'clock in the morning, out at the gas station, like me and my friend at the time, we'd be out there 5 o'clock in the morning, giving people watch Tower and Awakes at the gas station, and then go home, change, get ready, and go to school. Like that was my life, and that's what I was doing. I was going to all 3 meetings, and Friday night, Friday night, baby, it's oof.
That's when the party starts.
Have you ever heard of The Post?
Yes, I have heard of The Post.
Friday night at the after hours, that was, and for me for a while, and I had boyfriends and stuff like that, and after a while I was like, this is tiring. It got old, and I'm like, it got to be, it's not that it was too much of juggling both, because Sunday was the main meeting. Tuesday was Bible study. Tuesday was Bible study. and then Wednesday was the ministerial service. So I had Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And like I was doing it. I did it for a long time. And I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore because I'm not being true to myself. It's being too hard and I'm being fake. Fake is, I can't. And I legit packed my things and left my mom's house and told nobody that I left. I just left. I literally packed and left. It was gone for straight 6 months.
Seriously?
Yeah. Didn't talk to anybody in my family for 6 months.
I'm dramatic, first of all, so I want sad music playing as I walk out the door, and I want to have a book bag, and I want to look back as I walk. I want to walk very slowly so that you know that you're gonna miss me when I'm gone.
I was like, let me pack my things.
Fold it up really nicely.
Fold it up really nice. You know, you roll everything.
Oh.
We need to get as much in this little suitcase as we can. Hit the road.
What do you do now? Like for holidays, do you go to church with your mom? Do they do that? Like, do they do special church services for like Christmas, Easter? No.
Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate any holidays but the Passover.
Oh. Okay.
So, yeah, none of them.
Oh. So do you have a spiritual background? Like, do you go to church or do you pray?
Oh, well, yeah, I personally do. That was something else that I had to discover on my own is I had to discover spirituality in opposed to religion.
Right.
And I think that within that I have a bit more. I have more of a spiritual enlightenment with myself than I did with that religion of do this, do that, do this, do that. You know, it was more structure and what you just need to do and not question, in opposed to, you know, feeling God and the spirit and stuff like that. And I mean, and they teach that type of thing, but it didn't, the feeling wasn't there behind it, you know, because of all of the do's and don'ts and the rules of it. Like, where does the spiritual part come in at? Like, yeah, you pray at the meetings, you pray and all this other stuff, but where's the spiritual part come into it? Because it doesn't feel that way. Right. It just feels like there's rules, and then you pray in between the rules and going door to door.
All right, ain't nobody slamming no door in my face. As soon as they go to shut, I'm like, excuse me, hey, I'm not done talking. Let me finish my scripture.
You are going to take it, and you are going to like it.
Period. Don't make me take off my wigs.
Man, by the time you go to do like this, the door done already closed. By the time you go to lift your hand and pull it, the door is closed.
It is.
In the words of Nene, the door is closed.
Just crack it a little bit. Let me back in here. So I guess this will be my last question. What advice would you give someone that is living a double life, right? They know where they want to be, and they don't know how to tell their family because they're afraid their family won't accept them, especially if they're in the Black community, because we're more prone to be like, no, yep. You know? So what would you tell a person that's afraid to be themselves?
I think that finding an outside family and friends is going to be a very good first step. There are a lot of instances where, you know, children are kicked out of their parents' homes and have no place to go. Right. So I think that finding a good outside family that will be there to support you is going to be a really, really good thing. And to sometimes not even stress about it too much. You know, people are gonna always have their thoughts about it, and depending on, you know, your level of being and feminism, because every gay person isn't the same, just like every Black person isn't a thug, or every white person isn't a racist, every gay person isn't kicking and splitting, as, you know, they say.
Right.
So it depends on your level, I think, of feminism, that you can kind of gauge what to expect from your family, because in some instances people are just going to talk anyway. I mean, it's your family, so they're going to talk, period.
Right.
An outside support is going to be a really, really good thing. I think that if you can find someone in your family that you can trust is also a very good thing. You need someone that you can trust. So finding someone, either an outside friend system or network, or someone within your family is going to be very, very helpful. And I think that more so comes for someone that is under 18 and someone that has to or depends on parents or grandparents or guardians for something. So those would be the things that I would say. Find people that you can trust. That, you know, if you're having a hard time, if you really just need somebody to talk to, if you need to get your feelings out, that's what's going to be best, you know, for someone that's on the younger side. For someone that's older and you're established, you probably need to, you know, most people that are adults and that are living double lives have the friend backgrounds, but they're still living the double lives. I know several people, several people to this day. You know, grown people are going to do what they want to do.
Right.
They're going to do what they're going to do what they want to do.
They start less. I mean, I feel like once you start actually being yourself, you be more comfortable, you be more relaxed. You don't have to fake nothing when you go around certain people. Like, I see it a lot, and I usually be like, you know, that's none of my business. I just want you to be comfortable, like however you want to go about it, you do that. But I feel like it'll take a lot off your shoulders if you just be like, listen, hey, this is how I live my life, and that's it.
That's the hard part, is telling someone that, because the negative stigma that is often seen behind it, and how you and if you don't know how parents, adults, whatever it is going to react, then you may not say anything. It's no different than, you know, a girl that's 15 that gets pregnant. Like, imagine having to tell your parent that you're pregnant, you know, and I know a lot of women can relate to that. Like, that's a scary thing to have to tell somebody that you've done this ultimate no that you're not supposed to do, and you did it.
Listen, I'm 28, and if I had to go and call my parents, I'd cry. I'd cry my little, I don't care. I'm telling you, and I'm 28 years old, but that'd be a thing for me. Like,
you're grown, but it's just one of those things that we're taught as kids. Is it's just, no, you don't do, like, it's the worst thing that you can do. You don't do that, right. You know. So that's where a lot of times I find that having that, if you're a younger person, having that someone or some people that you can trust is a very, very excellent blanket for a teen, preteen to have. And sometimes you might have to live there until you can, you know, in that space with that secret, if you will, until you can be grown and get out on your own. So that way you can say, and you can then tell people if you want to at your leisure, but at this point they have nothing to do but accept it because you're on your own.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I would tell, you know, someone that's young to do, is find some security in family or friends that you can confide in until you feel comfortable to tell, or until you can be on your own and live your life. And if you choose to tell them, then you do, without any, you know, repercussions or consequences to come behind it.
It's literally something that we really need to educate ourselves on, because this is something that our kids is going to see when they watch TV, when they go to school. And then,
well, it's part of the argument that Black people have, right. The whole representation matters. Well, gay people have always been here. Always. It's not new. It is not new. It's not new. So it's once again kind of going to Billy Porter's, you know, comparison of those two things, of white supremacy and Black people, and, you know, the straight men, or in some cases even women and folks of the LGBT community. It's just being respectful of people. You know, I saw something in that small piece of that interview with Charlamagne and Angela Yee, and, you know, Charlamagne didn't agree with it, and he was like, well, you know, I think it's being, you know, a little bit more tolerated. Don't tolerate me. I don't need you to tolerate me. What you need to do is respect me. It's one of my Khalees has a song. I cannot think of it right now. And gosh, I know all of Khalees's music. And she says in the song, "You might love me." She said, "You don't have to like me. You might not even love me, but you will respect me." It's just being it's common decency and just respecting people. If it does not affect your life, is it bossy? It's
I
bossy.
think it is bossy.
It's
I
bossy.
think it is bossy.
And in that first line, she's like, "You don't have to love me. You don't even have to like me, but you will respect me." That's all. That's all life is. Dealing with anybody, men, women, white, straight, gay, Asian, Muslim, you know, Japanese, Chinese, Indian. Just respect people. If it does not affect you in your life, if however old you are, I'm older than you. I'm older than you. And, you know, if you decided that you wanted to start stealing airplanes because you wanted to just be up there with the birds, ma'am, I might say that, do you know how to fly?
No.
I might ask you, but if you're like, this is my damn life and I'm going to do,
Let you do
sis,
your
get your wings. Get your wings. Come on, Red Bull.
do your thing.
I can't do anything but respect you. You're a grown-ass person.
Right.
And what you do in your life is more than likely only going to affect you and not me in any way. And it might affect your family. But on my day-to-day life, what I do is more than likely going to only affect me. Everything that you've done in your life for however long you've been alive has only affected you. And if you come into a space with somebody, take the time to think, why would I care what they've done in their life? Has whatever they've done in their life ever affected mine? Ever, in any way? Do you even know the person's name or last name?
Nope.
Anything about this person? So why do you care?
I ain't got nothing else to do.
Disrespect people for living their lives the same way that you want people to respect you for living yours. I mean, it's not a hard thing to do, and you might actually see positive change happening in the world.
We can only hope.
It's the fight of our lives as Black people. It's the fight of our lives as Black gay people. Just, it's common decency and respect.
Definitely is. Well, I think that was amazing. I wanted to play Bossy in this because I was like, oh, that'd be a cool way to end the show. Just now you hear it.
So one other thing that I did want to share about Pride, kind of going all the way back to the beginning where you said 5 things, or you asked about 5 things that people may not know. Mm-hmm. And specifically with Pride, and the reason why Pride happens in June is because 1969, you know, horrible times, you know, civil rights movement was not too far, you know, behind 1969 or before 1969. Mm-hmm. And, you know, being gay was it was illegal then. And, you know, people would go out to bars and stuff like that. And at the time, bars were run by the mafia. Mm-hmm. And they were providing a level of protection, but they were like blackmailing down like closeted people at the same time. So they were like, yeah, you could come in my bar, but I might tell, yeah, like you pay me $500, I'm gonna tell, you know, everybody that you know, like, and they were blackmailing like high profile people, politicians and stuff like that. What would happen is that because the police knew that they were doing this and that they were kind of shielding the, you know, people, mm-hmm. they would go in and they would raid the bars. One night they decided to raid the bar. The bar is called the Stonewall Inn in New York, still a functioning bar to this day. They decided to raid this bar, and there was a transgender woman named Marsha. There are a few stories, there are a few versions of this story, because, you know, history.
Right.
So one of the popular version is that they went to raid the bar. She was like, oh, hell no. She grabbed a shot glass, threw the shot glass. Her homegirl, which was Latin, her name was Sylvia, she then threw a cocktail, and like New York went up that night. Like they got out of there, they were burning New York down. And that's one version. Another version is that she threw a brick. Another version is that she didn't know about it, and then she found out about it, and then came down and then started throwing bricks. Then there's another version where there was a lesbian in the bar, and she was the one that like punched a police officer, and then it jumped off. Either way,
It popped up.
these three, like the two trans women and the lesbian, she actually is she's mixed, so she's black and white. Woman of color in any way basically started the riots in New York in 1969. The riots went on for like 3 to 6 days, and I mean, they were rioting. They were protesting.
Burn the city down.
Yeah, and the bit of the difference between like our protests now and like what they were doing, because being gay at that time was an illegal thing, the outside support wasn't there as much as, you know, how, you know, with Black Lives Matter, there are some solid white, you know, allies, or there are allies outside of the black race that are, they're solid and they're there. Back then, LGBT community didn't have it, not like it is now. So you had mainly all gay people or LGBTQ that was doing this. Burned New York down, lit it up. They did it for 3 to 6 days. And then the next year, some of the folks that were mainly a part of it put it together. And then that's when 1970 was when the first Pride happened. It was a year to date, so it was June 28th, when the very first Pride parade happened. And they marched, you know, all the way up the street, and you know, they were at Central Park, and it had stages, and there was just a whole bunch of people there. And then from there, that's when you started tiny bits of seeing, you know, some of the laws starting to change, and, you know, kind of a little bit more acceptance. And then, you know, of course, now it's a whole thing with companies, and, you know, everything is gay and Pride right now. So that's how Pride initially started. And there is a Black Pride, because, you know, we always got to have our own, but there is a very, very separate Black Pride. Yeah, Black, you know, we always got some soul with our stuff. Our stuff is always gonna be, it's always gonna be hype. So yeah, Black Pride didn't start until it was either 91 or 93, and it started in DC, and it's kind of grown.
Detroit. I was gonna feel so like, I don't know, excited if you was gonna say Detroit, but you said DC.
DC was the first one, and then we were like one of 3 to 4 of the big cities after that, that, you know, kind of took it up. And I mean, there are a lot of them. There are a lot of Black gay prides, but us, DC, Atlanta, LA, and New York, I think are still like some of the biggest ones in the world. I mean, New York is mad. No, I was gonna, between New York and DC, like their Black prides are massive. But even still, you know, that whole thing still falls back into the whole white supremacy thing, because the Black gay prides don't get the type of attention that regular, you know, like basically the mainstream media white prides do. They still don't get the same amount of funding that those do. They don't get the same amount of attention as those other ones do. So, you know, it still becomes that whole thing with, you know, us still being Black, still are, you know, the redheaded stepchild, if you will. But I did want to share, in case people didn't know, actually when and how Pride actually started.